evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. It is Thursday, the 22nd of January. This is CTV News. Tonight, a parole backlash. Family says convicted impaired driver should not be walking free yet. Dedicated minister. The province gives seniors a representative at the cabinet table. And demand outweighs supply. Nova Scotia shelter has no animals up for adoption.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news tonight. Some anxious and dark moments in a Halifax neighborhood. This is what's going on. Nova Scotia Power's outage map reporting a significant outage in the Quinpool Road area this evening. And Halifax Regional Police had the area cordoned off. Call came in around 7:30 p.m. of a large propane tank leaking on Larch Street. Experts didn't want to take any chances, so the power was cut. Some residents were evacuated. In fact, comfort buses were dispatched. The neighborhood is heavily populated by DAL students. We'll report any updates we get before the end of this broadcast. Family of a Cape Breton girl who was struck and killed by a vehicle while riding her bike is reacting tonight to news that the impaired driver behind the wheel has been granted full parole. Family says it took 2 trials over several years to finally put the man behind bars, and he simply hasn't served enough time before being granted full parole. Here's CTV's Ryan McDonald.
Word that Colin Tweedy has been granted full parole after spending just under a year and a half in jail for the hit-and-run death of 10-year-old Talia Forrest isn't sitting well with the young girl's family.
It's unbelievable. We fought for justice longer than he'd spent behind bars.
From the time of the fatal crash in July 2019 to sentencing 5 years later in July 2024, there were 2 trials and months spent in courtrooms. The second time around, Tweedy was convicted of dangerous driving causing death, impaired driving causing death, and leaving the scene of an accident. He was sentenced to 4.5 years. Forrest's cousin says the fact he is out already sends a bad message.
That it's okay to do what he did because he didn't spend that much time behind bars.
In its written decision, the parole board stated that Tweedy had accepted full responsibility for the young girl's death, and he had acknowledged that panic and alcohol combined to impair his judgment. It also stated that Tweedy showed remorse and is considered a low risk to reoffend.
I'm glad that it went back for a retrial because he could have got off, but I am glad he did spend with the time that he did spend in jail.
Tweedy's parole conditions include not being allowed to drink any alcohol, not having contact with the victim's family, and that he lived with his common-law spouse. At the time of sentencing, the judge also imposed a 2-year ban on driving to begin on the date that he was released from custody. Forrest's cousin says all the family can do now is try to keep Talia's memory alive. She says a new video will be released soon about the young girl's life and her tragic death, which is also meant to warn others about the dangers of impaired driving.
Because she was not just a victim, she was a person, she was a child with so many dreams and wishes. Her life was cut way too short, and she deserves so much better.
A family left feeling failed by the justice system one last time, nearly 7 years after the tragedy that changed their lives. Ryan McDonald, CTV News, Sydney.
2 men have been charged in connection with a shooting in Eskasoni nearly 5 years ago. It was back February 28, 2021. Police called to a house on Mountain View Drive where a 53-year-old man had been shot through a window. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Just this week, RCMP charged 35-year-old Ashton Bernard with attempted murder and some weapons-related offenses. In addition, 29-year-old Edwin Paul is facing charges of accessory after the fact. Both of them are scheduled back in court on the 3rd of March.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
There's word tonight Porter Airlines is closing its Halifax and Thunder Bay bases. CUPE says the decision will affect about 60 employees in both cities. The union says it got word of the news on the 14th of this month. It says the company is treating the matter as a group termination. Published reports say the company has decided maintaining hubs in Toronto and Ottawa is the most effective way to operate in the ever-evolving airline industry. Nova Scotia is getting tougher on illegal fishing. The province says these shady practices cost millions in lost taxes and hurt the industry overall. CTV's Jesse Thomas has details.
And hopefully it's enough of a dollar value that deters illegal activity.
The province has added more than 30 new summary offences under the Fisheries and Coastal Resources Act that'll see higher fines issued for fraud and falsifying records, with repeat offenders paying double the initial fine that jumps from $5,000 to $10,000. And those caught buying or processing illegally caught seafood would face fines of $25,000 for first offense and double if caught again.
Because it's one thing to actually hire the inspectors and to put them on the wharf to do the work, and it's the second thing to actually give them the tools to do that job efficiently.
We don't want to see anyone charged or apprehended, but hopefully that people will stay in line and adhere to these conservation measures.
In November, the province announced the creation of a dedicated fisheries enforcement unit. Those in the industry see these new summary offences and increased fines as giving officers stronger tools to curb illegal fishing practices and protect the lucrative industry. The province estimates that 30% of lobster landings go unreported, representing roughly $400 million in lost taxable revenue for the province.
So if we could recoup some of that, even some of that $400 million, I think we'd be taking a big step in the right direction.
Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
The Horizon Health Network held a board meeting in Moncton this afternoon, and to nobody's surprise, the topic of emergency room wait times and overcrowding were front and center.
I really wanted to emphasize to the public that our healthcare system is truly in a crisis.
Horizon's president and CEO deeply concerned about some facilities operating over capacity every day. The end result includes the recent high-profile case of a parking garage being used as a unit in the Chalmers Hospital in Fredericton.
And asking our staff and physicians to work with those types of pressures, as well as having the concerns with regard to patients and families that are needing to be situated in hallways and alcoves and so forth, is just simply a deplorable situation.
On the upside, Horizon says it successfully recruited 130 doctors and more than 400 nurses, but admit those still fell short of their goals. One of the companies hoping to be a player in Nova Scotia's offshore wind project signed a memorandum of understanding today with the Nova Scotia Community College. Partnership would see the school offer training to students looking for work in the renewable energy field. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness has more.
With the stroke of a pen, a tentative partnership between Q Energy and the Nova Scotia Community College is signed.
Depending on what the market demand is, I'm confident NSCC can expand to meet the demand.
Q Energy France is in the pre-qualification phase to develop Nova Scotia's multi-billion-dollar Wind West offshore wind project. Should it be chosen, the partnership, which includes the Peer Research Hub, promises to train employees to work in the renewable energy field, particularly offshore energy.
Typically, when you install that offshore wind farm and maintenance about that, there is a various type of the mechanical and electrical engineering skill and also technique would be required.
The company's CEO, Junu Lee, says their research shows the high wind speeds and predictable wind direction could produce between 2.5 to 3 gigawatts of energy.
We see that the wind resource itself in here would be very competitive across any other region in the globe.
Hanwha officials met with the Premier yesterday and say they are also ready to form partnerships with Canadian companies. As for the offshore project, Junu Lee says the winning bid could be chosen within the next couple months. Jonathan McGuinness, CTV News, Halifax.
On the surface, it seems little more than a bureaucratic decision, but the New Brunswick government has officially announced a Minister of Seniors. Those who advocate for the older demographic say it's about time. Here's CTV's Laura Brown.
Jan Seeley was meeting with other seniors advocates when a special guest walked in.
I really had no idea what was going to happen.
Premier Susan Holt surprised the group, announcing that Lynn Chantal Boudreau will officially become Minister of Seniors. While the file will remain under the Department of Social Development, Boudreau is now in control of the $859 million budget and staff. It's a welcome change, feels Seeley, since the Social Development Minister already looks after child protection, family supports, housing and homelessness, persons with disabilities, and social assistance.
When you have all these fires to put out and you only have maybe one or two fire hoses, it's really difficult to focus.
Seniors advocates have felt for a long time that issues facing seniors were getting lost in the mix.
I'm going to hope that this is a measure to get that started.
PC MLA and critic Margaret Johnson feels at some point a standalone department for seniors is necessary.
We look at the fact that our food banks are seeing a 27% increase in uptake, and that's from senior populations who simply can't afford to make ends meet on their current pensions. Right? So I think we've got to, these are the people that New Brunswick is built on their backs.
The Premier has promised a long-term care plan will be unveiled soon. Laura Brown, CTV News, Fredericton.
Turns out a growing interest in soccer is putting a real strain on local facilities that host games year-round.
We are past the critical point.
As we told you yesterday on CTV News at 5, part of the appeal is the fact that soccer is a lower barrier sport. It means calls are growing for more indoor turf fields.
We're finding ourselves traveling out to, say, West Hants on a weekly basis for flag football practices. We're traveling to East Hants on a regular schedule for soccer games, over to East Coast Varsity as well.
The surge of soccer registrations and the more people renting from a soccer perspective here at BMO Soccer Centre, the other sports are also feeling that impact.
Halifax County United has seen 50% growth. That's 600 new players signing up in just 3 years. All right, time for our first break tonight. Still to come, Kaylin's full forecast, and we'll examine a new sense of optimism among small business owners. Coming up next, though, changing tastes in travel.
There's this group of Canadians and this group of New Brunswickers who are simply refusing to cross the border.
Fewer of us visiting the United States these days. Will that trend continue in 2026? We'll look into that when we come back.
With Aaron and Peter. Join us tomorrow for another Foodie Friday, and we're giving away trip number 4 of 30 to beaches, Turks and Caicos.
Start collecting tomorrow's passwords at 6 a.m. on Move 100.
You know, it's a pretty impressive statistic when you consider there was no unified campaign behind it. Nearly 700,000 fewer travelers crossed into the state of Maine through New Brunswick last year. We know that trend is largely based on some unpopular remarks by Donald Trump. And a new poll finds things probably not going to change a whole lot this year. Here's CTV's Avery McCrae.
The border crossing between St. Stephen and Calais, Maine is the busiest in the province, but over the past year there have been few lineups for travelers heading south. Data provided by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection found that in 2024, the year before Donald Trump took office, nearly 2.8 million people crossed into Maine at a New Brunswick land border crossing. But in 2025, that number was just over 2 million, representing a drop-off of nearly 700,000 people.
The mercurial nature of the Trump administration, we don't know what's going to come next. Nothing surprises me anymore. So we may see a continued drop-off in people actually visiting and crossing the border.
A new poll from Abacus Data suggests from a Canadian standpoint, things aren't about to change. 34% of Canadians avoided travel to the U.S. in 2025 because of politics. 33% say they would think less of someone who travels to the States, and if anywhere in the country, Atlantic Canadians are least likely to share that they took a trip across the border.
I suspect there will be a sizable number of Canadians, and Atlantic Canadians in particular, saying, look, I'm not going down there, both because I don't want to reward that behavior.
Coletto also points out the longer Canadians avoid travel to the U.S., the less likely they are to ever return. He uses snowbirds as an example, noting some have made places like Mexico their new winter homes over states like Florida. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
Thank you, Avery. Time for a quick little break here, but when we come back, it's your complete maritime weather forecast. Mexico, frankly, will look very good after you hear what's coming our way over the weekend. Kaylin has the details coming up next. Thursday evening, 22nd day of January, I made kind of a feeble effort to scrape up some of the slush from the driveway today, but that didn't go very well because it's heavy, man.
Oh, sure is. Once it starts melting down a little bit. And well, that's what was happening in parts of Nova Scotia today as temperatures became milder, and that snow did turn over to a little bit of light rain. Now, of course, tonight, temperatures are falling back to and below freezing. So some of that slush that Bruce was talking about, it's likely to be turning icy as we move through tonight and into the start of the day for tomorrow. Weather conditions for tonight feature partly cloudy skies and some scattered flurries. Similar weather expected for tomorrow. Broken mix of sun and cloud, but scattered flurries for parts of the Maritimes as another cold front comes across the region. As that front moves through for tomorrow, winds are going to be getting a little bit blustery, and it is that front that is along the leading edge of some very frigid air that will continue to move into the region as we move through Friday night and into Saturday. That's going to put us into that deep cold that's going to be around for the weekend into the start of next week. One thing to keep in mind, when that very cold air starts to move in over the ocean waters of the Bay of Fundy, the Gulf of Maine, Northumberland Strait, and the Gulf of St. Lawrence, it is going to carry some flurries onshore into parts of Nova Scotia and areas of Prince Edward Island with it. And because of the very cold nature of the air and the fact that the winds are going to be getting gustier Friday night into Saturday morning, those flurries will be accompanied by a risk of some snow squalls, which if you get into one of those snow squalls can really reduce your visibility if you're driving along the roads and highways where they're present. Now, taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow for the winds, they'll be out of the west and the northwest, gusts increasing to 30 to 50 kilometers per hour in the afternoon. It's a cold night around the region with most low temperatures a few to several degrees below zero. Some of the northern half of New Brunswick between -10 and -13. Now, northern areas of New Brunswick for tomorrow can expect afternoon high temperatures between -5 and -8. With central and southern parts of the province with high temperatures mostly between -3 and -5. For Prince Edward Island on Friday, the high temperatures between -2 and -4. In Cape Breton, the highs between 0 and -2 and -2 to +1 for the North Shore and Eastern Shore of Nova Scotia. Cumberland, Colchester, Hants County, Halifax County with highs between -3 and 0. Lunenburg County with high temperatures between -1 and +1. That carries down the South Shore into Shelburne County and Queens County, as well as in around Yarmouth, the high of around 1 for tomorrow, -3 for the Annapolis Valley. Now, we do have something to watch for coming up at the start of next week. There's going to be a major winter storm developing in the southern United States. As that storm system makes its way through the southern U.S., it is going to trigger the development of a second storm, a nor'easter-type storm system on the coastline of North Carolina. Now, that nor'easter will be moving up north past Cape Cod. At the end of the weekend, it could come close enough Sunday night into Monday to bring a significant snowfall to parts of the Maritimes. Now, currently, it looks like Nova Scotia, southern New Brunswick, and eastern Prince Edward Island would be at greatest risk of picking up some snowfall amounts of 15 centimeters or more. Again, that snow would be starting late Sunday night, but ongoing through the day on Monday. In the forecast for New Brunswick then, bitterly cold through the weekend ahead. Watch out for some snow Sunday night into Monday. You want to be keeping tabs on that period in the forecast into and through the weekend. After that, it's a mix of sun and cloud on Tuesday. Still quite cold. Chance of flurries on Wednesday of next week and a mix of sun and cloud on Thursday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast coming up during the weekend, it's going to be very cold. There will also be some flurries with a risk of snow squalls and the potential for that heavier snow Sunday night into Monday. After that, a chance of flurries on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Thursday, a mix of sun and cloud. And for Prince Edward Island in the forecast, it's flurries over the next couple of days as conditions become frigid. The potential for that snow Sunday night into Monday, and then a chance of flurries after that on Tuesday with a mix of sun and cloud Wednesday and Thursday. Bruce, with that type of weather system developing maybe for the Maritimes on Monday, I would expect to really get a much better read on the potential for snowfall at the start of the weekend on Saturday. That's when there'll be some better information available on it.
Right, you are. Okay, really good point. Thank you, sir. We'll step aside for just a couple of minutes, but stay with us. There's a whole lot more to come.
The #1 morning show in Halifax. Turk, Megan, and Amateur Alex. And home to the biggest artists. Halifax's #1 hit music station. 101.3 Virgin Radio.
Despite rising costs and lingering uncertainty, small businesses are keeping their chins up, it seems, and focusing on a brighter future. As CTV's Vanessa Wright shows us tonight, resilient business owners haven't given up hope for better days ahead.
Restaurant owner Costa Ellis calls 2025 a decent year for his business. But his main concern was the rising cost of food. The fear that prices will go up and stay up is a worry that spills over into this year.
And when you hear it from your customers and you see it on your invoices that are coming in, you're sensing an uneasiness on increasing pricing.
Across town at this retail shop, store manager Ellen Giberson is holding steady too.
We are always going to be optimistic. We're always going to hope for and lean on a bright future. If we didn't take into consideration the past 2 years, it would not be wise of us. I would say we are cautiously optimistic, but I think things are looking up.
A new study by the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses shows confidence is up across maritime businesses.
So for the first time now in 2 years, we're seeing a glimpse of optimism in there. And we hope that this is going to stick along and translate into positive results.
Ellis is hopeful for the year ahead, but he's not so sure his 2026 will look any different.
I'm still holding up my cards pretty tight and hopefully a decent year.
Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Halifax.
Coming up, good news from a local animal shelter. They have no adoptables at the moment. First, though, it's your wake-up weather. Here's a live look at the Westmoreland Bridge in Fredericton, where it's currently a cool -3, but it will get worse than that. Kaylin Mitchell with everything you need to know for Friday morning when we come back. All right, it is Friday morning. We've made it to the weekend, and the best way to kick off any weekend is with a look at the wake-up weather.
That's right. So cold in the morning hours. Most temperatures few to several degrees below the freezing mark. Partly cloudy conditions. Expecting some scattered flurries tomorrow. First thing in the morning, highest chance of flurries will be in the southwest of Nova Scotia. The afternoon, a mix of sun and cloud. Scattered flurries still in the region. Winds become a little bit blustery as we have a cold front moving through. Remember, it gets very, very cold Friday night and into the start of the weekend. Bruce.
Okay, thank you, sir. Well, it is a rare and frankly delightful problem to have. An animal shelter in Dartmouth quite literally has no animals looking for their forever homes at the moment. CTV's Emma Convey has more.
Today, yesterday, and the day before. We post them at 9:30 in the morning. By 10 o'clock, we have a lineup out front, and by noon, they're all adopted.
From dogs to cats to kittens, the adoption rate at this animal shelter just continues to climb. In all of 2025, 500 animals were adopted. In the first few weeks of 2026, they've already seen 30 find their forever home.
It's crazy to say, but today we actually have no one available for adoption. Everyone is either adopted and waiting to go home, or they're waiting for their veterinary health certificate.
It started picking up in the spring and hasn't slowed down. They attribute the boost in part to the companionship and mental health benefits pets can offer. Bite-A-While also offers incentives to foster older pets.
The palliative care program, if you adopt or foster a palliative care cat from us or dog, we cover the cost of all the medical visits, all of their medications.
Last year's wait list to adopt kittens was around 300. To get ahead of demand this year, they've switched from a wait list to a walk-in system. But they encourage potential adopters to check the website before showing up. Emma Convey, CTV News, Dartmouth.
Thank you, Emma. Just a reminder, if you joined us late tonight or you'd like to take a closer look at anything you've seen, CTVNewsAtlantic.ca is your home for news and updates right around the clock. I'm Bruce Frisco. Thank you for staying up late with us tonight. Have a good evening. I sure hope to see you again tomorrow.